What if the exhaustion you feel right now is not from doing too much? What if it comes from the massive amount of energy you spend running away from yourself? You wake up and immediately reach for a screen to numb your mind. You flood your ears with the voices of strangers just to drown out your own thoughts. You keep the music playing so you never have to sit in the unbearable silence. You walk through your day performing a character you did not even write. You smile when it is expected by the people around you. You agree with opinions you do not actually hold. You swallow your objections to keep the peace. You apologize for taking up space. You shrink your ambitions to make others comfortable. And when the day ends and you finally lie in the dark, a quiet dread washes over you. Your chest tightens. You feel entirely hollow inside. You feel like a ghost haunting your own physical body. You look at the world and assume everyone else possesses a manual for living. You watch them move with certainty and purpose. You believe you were the only one left entirely unprepared for existence. From there, you quietly blame your circumstances. You blame your past. You blame the way you were raised and the people who failed you. You wait endlessly for something external to finally lock into place. You hope a new job, a new relationship, or a new city will suddenly make you feel real. But what if I told you this paralysis is not a defect of your brain? What if it is a profound crisis of your spirit? Soren Kierkegaard understood this exact terror. He did not view this anxiety as a medical condition to be cured. He saw it as a harsh but necessary awakening. Today we will explore your quiet suffering through his profound philosophical lens. We will see that the pain you carry is not a sign of your failure. It is the heavy requirement of becoming an authentic individual. Number 1. The exhaustion of chasing temporary distractions. You spend your days seeking the next momentary relief from your own mind. You scroll through endless feeds of useless information. You purchase things you do not need to impress people you do not know. You chase validation from individuals you do not even respect. You try to collect enough pleasant experiences to build a barrier against your own emptiness. Kierkegaard called this the aesthetic way of living. It is a life devoted entirely to the avoidance of boredom and pain. You evaluate everything by whether it brings you pleasure or discomfort. If a situation becomes difficult, you immediately abandon it. If a relationship requires actual sacrifice, you pull away. If a task forces you to face your own limitations, you procrastinate. But you know the absolute truth of this lifestyle. The boredom always returns. The novelty always wears off. The louder the music gets, the deafer you become to your own internal voice. You move frantically from one temporary obsession to the next. You constantly change your style. You change your surroundings. You change your social circles. But you bring the exact same inner void to every new situation. You are trying to solve a deep spiritual problem with cheap external inputs. It is like trying to quench a severe thirst by staring at a photograph of a river. You feel exhausted because maintaining this illusion requires non-stop effort. You must always find a new distraction before the old one loses its power. If you stop moving for even a second, the anxiety catches up to your mind. So you keep running, you keep consuming, you keep hiding. But the underlying despair remains completely intact. You cannot outrun the fundamental question of your own existence. At some point, the distractions will fail you entirely. The screens will offer absolutely no comfort. The external validation will feel like ash in your mouth. This collapse is not a tragedy. It is the first true moment of your absolute freedom. When the noise finally stops working, you are forced to sit down and listen. Number 2. The quiet tragedy of losing yourself to the anonymous crowd. You look around and you automatically mimic the behaviors of those near you. You adopt their narrow definitions of success. You inherit their irrational fears. You mold your personal ambitions to fit within the acceptable lines drawn by society. You think that by blending in perfectly, you will find permanent safety. You believe that if you do what everyone else does, you will be protected from failure and judgment. But this conformity comes with a devastating and permanent price. You surrender your own individual soul. You become a mere fraction instead of a whole number. You let the shifting opinions of the crowd dictate your absolute worth. You measure your value purely by how well you meet borrowed expectations. But the crowd has no face. The crowd has no memory. The crowd has no conscience. The crowd will never comfort you when you are staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. When you live exclusively to please the anonymous masses, you slowly erase your own specific features. You become entirely smooth. You become totally frictionless. You become entirely forgettable, even to your own mind. This is precisely why you feel so profoundly lonely even when standing in a crowded room. You are not lonely because you lack physical company. You are lonely because the version of you interacting with those people is entirely fake. Your true self is locked away, suffocating in the dark corners of your mind. You have abandoned your most important post. You have let the world tell you exactly who you are supposed to be. But deep down, beneath the conformity, your spirit is crying out in violent rebellion. It refuses to be neatly categorized. It refuses to be minimized by social expectations. This internal friction you feel every single day is your own soul fighting for its right to exist. It is trying to wake you up from a self-induced coma. Number 3, facing the true nature of your hidden despair. You often think of despair as a dramatic and visible breakdown. You picture it as overwhelming sadness, crying, or deep public grief. But the most dangerous form of despair is completely and utterly silent. It looks exactly like a normal, highly functioning, successful routine. In his profound work, The Sickness Unto Death, Kierkegaard exposed the harsh reality of this condition. He explained that the deepest despair is not sorrow over your external circumstances. The ultimate despair is the unwillingness to be yourself. It is the constant, agonizing desire to be anyone else. You look at another person and you desperately want their unshakable confidence. You want their specific physical appearance. You want their unblemished personal history. You actively resent your own existence. You treat your specific life as a terrible mistake that must be corrected. You wish you could trade your chaotic mind for a quieter, simpler one. Kierkegaard saw this as a fatal sickness of the human spirit. When you refuse to accept the exact self you were given, you sever your connection to actual reality. You choose to live inside a sterile fantasy. You wait for a magical transformation that will never arrive. You say to yourself, when I finally achieve this specific financial goal, then I will be real. When I finally find the perfect romantic partner, then my life will officially begin. Until then, you treat your current existence as a temporary waiting room. You refuse to fully inhabit your own skin. You refuse to take up your own space. But you cannot build a meaningful life on a weak foundation of self-rejection. As long as you are trying to be someone else, you will remain trapped in a state of permanent spiritual paralysis. You must stop looking sideways at the lives of others. You must turn your relentless gaze strictly inward. You must accept the total reality of your own flaws. You must accept your own embarrassing history. You must accept your own highly specific potential. You must look directly at the chaotic mess of your life and say, "This is mine." Only from that exact point of brutal honesty can any real forward movement begin. Number 4, embracing the dizziness of freedom. You stand before a massive life decision and you completely freeze. You feel a sudden tightening in the center of your chest. Your breathing becomes shallow and erratic. You call this sensation anxiety. You think it means something is deeply wrong with your brain chemistry. You go to incredible lengths to avoid feeling this specific physical sensation. You ask others to make the hard choices for you. You delay action until the opportunity disappears entirely. You let circumstances force your hand so you do not have to take any personal responsibility. But what if you misunderstood this feeling from the very beginning? What if this panic is the most beautiful and essential thing about your mind? This feeling is the dizziness of freedom. When you stand on the extreme edge of a high cliff, you feel a profound terror. You're afraid of falling, of course, but you're also terrified because you realize you have the absolute power to throw yourself off. You are confronted with your own absolute capability to act. The anxiety you feel in your daily life is the exact same dizziness. It is the sudden crushing awareness of your own infinite potential. You are not a programmed machine running on a fixed track. You are a free consciousness, totally capable of choosing your own ruin or your own salvation. Every single time you feel that heavy anxiety in your chest, it is undeniable proof that you are free. It is the dizziness of freedom reminding you that you are alive. You suddenly realize that no one is coming to save you. No one is going to write the final script for your life. You hold the pen in your own hand. The blank page is staring violently back at you, and that realization is utterly terrifying. But you must firmly stop running from this terror. You must stand at the extreme edge of the cliff and look deep down into the abyss of your own potential. You must let the spiritual vertigo wash over your entire body. Do not shrink back into the safety of blind conformity. Do not hand your hard-won freedom over to an authority figure or a comforting ideology. Hold on to the dizziness of freedom. Let it teach you the absolute and heavy weight of your own existence. It is the mandatory price of admission for living a genuine life. Number 5, the overwhelming courage to make a definitive choice. You have spent years strategically keeping all of your options completely open. You refuse to fully commit to a singular career path. You refuse to commit to a specific location. You refuse to commit to a solid system of personal beliefs. You think that by leaving every single door cracked slightly open, you are preserving your ultimate freedom. You believe that true commitment is a dangerous trap that will limit your future. But floating endlessly in a vast, empty sea of infinite possibilities is the actual trap. When you never make a firm choice, you never truly begin to exist. You remain a transparent ghost hovering safely above actual reality. Kierkegaard strongly insisted that you must transition away from the aesthetic life. You must move deliberately into the ethical life. This does not mean you simply follow the polite moral rules of your local society. It means you take absolute, unbreakable ownership of your life through the physical act of choice. You must choose something specific and stand firmly behind it. You must intentionally limit your infinite possibilities by making a concrete, binding commitment. When you make a real choice, you securely bind yourself to the heavy physical world. You accept the inevitable consequences of that specific decision. You accept the unique pain that strictly comes with that specific path. By choosing, you physically construct the architecture of your own soul. You step out of the realm of abstract thoughts and into the bruising reality of action. If you are ready to stop running from your own existence, if you are ready to take absolute, unshakable ownership of your solitary path, go to the comments right now and type this exact phrase, "I choose myself." Let it serve as a physical marker of your ultimate commitment to reality. Now let us explore exactly what happens to your mind after you make that definitive choice. Number 6, enduring the crushing silence of your own company. When you finally stop chasing external distractions, the silence in your room will be completely deafening. When you finally stop asking the anonymous crowd for directions, you will feel completely and utterly lost. Your immediate biological reaction will be intense panic. Your brain will scream at you to quickly turn the noise back on. It will beg you to pick up the phone and scroll. It will violently urge you to seek out just one small hit of external validation to ease the pain. You must absolutely resist this primitive urge. You must sit completely still in the center of the quiet room. You must let the painful withdrawals of your previous fake life wash over your entire nervous system. At first, the profound silence will reveal all the terrifying things you have been hiding from. You will be forced to face your deepest personal regrets. You will be forced to face the humiliating memories you tried to permanently bury. You will literally feel the sharp physical sting of the precious time you have permanently wasted. Do not flinch away from this pain. Look directly and steadily at these inner ghosts. They only possess power over you when they operate in the dark. When you drag them out and expose them to the intense light of your own awareness, they immediately begin to shrink. This is the painful, sweaty labor of genuine self-creation. You are slowly excavating your own true identity from beneath years of accumulated social debris. You must forcefully learn to be your own unbreakable anchor. When the heavy doubt creeps into your mind, you do not ask someone else to reassure you. You physically reassure yourself. When the paralyzing fear arises in your throat, you do not numb it with cheap entertainment. You calmly observe it. You let it burn violently through your system until it turns to ash. You realize with absolute certainty that you are strong enough to hold your own pain. You do not need a soft buffer between you and harsh reality. The dizziness of freedom will absolutely return to you again and again. But instead of paralyzing your limbs, it will begin to deeply energize you. You will begin to act not out of a desperate fear of judgment, but out of a deep internal conviction. You will speak very quietly, but your specific words will carry immense physical weight. They will carry weight because they are actually Finally, your own words. You will permanently stop negotiating your personal boundaries to please strangers. You will absolutely stop apologizing for the reality of your own nature. You will discover a profound stillness inside your chest that the chaotic external world simply cannot touch. You have painstakingly built an impenetrable fortress out of your own brutal self-acceptance. Number 7. The ultimate leap of faith into your own absolute existence. Cold reason and endless logic will only take you so far on this path. You can analyze your childhood past forever without making a single change. You can perfectly map out your personality traits and mentally understand all of your deep traumas. But mental analysis does not produce a breathing, walking life. At some point, you must completely stop thinking and start leaping. You must take definitive action without having any absolute guarantee of success. You will never possess all the perfect answers before you begin. You will never be completely, 100% sure that you are making the perfect strategic move. If you sit and wait for absolute certainty, you will simply wait until your heart stops beating. You must make a terrifying leap of faith into the unknown. This is not necessarily a traditional religious faith, but a profound, unshakable faith in your own existence. You must radically trust that you have the internal capacity to handle whatever consequence arises from your choice. You step boldly into the absolute dark, knowing that your own 2 feet will eventually find solid ground. This leap forcefully requires you to completely surrender your neurotic need for total control. It requires you to bravely accept the inherent, unavoidable risk of simply being alive. You will absolutely make humiliating mistakes. You will inevitably encounter tremendous, heartbreaking sorrow. You will frequently face long moments of intense, biting isolation. But these harsh experiences will no longer completely crush your spirit. They will belong exclusively to you. They will serve as the authentic, bloody marks of a life that was actually lived. You are no longer a passive spectator sitting safely in the comfortable stands. You have stepped aggressively down into the center of the arena. You are covered head to toe in the dust and the blood of your own undeniable reality. And in that exact miraculous moment, the profound emptiness you used to feel constantly begins to permanently vanish. It is swiftly replaced by a heavy, quiet, undeniable sense of profound meaning. You no longer desperately need an external voice to tell you that you are on the right path. You have become the path itself. You no longer sit and wonder if you are truly enough. You realize the underlying question itself was a complete illusion. You are an absolute, totally singular phenomenon in the universe. There has never been a conscious mind exactly like yours in the entire history of the physical universe. There will absolutely never be another one like you ever again. To waste this profound rarity by trying desperately to be someone else is the only true failure. Stand extremely tall in the constant dizziness of freedom. Carry the heavy weight of your personal choices with total, silent dignity. You have finally arrived at the one exact place you spent your whole entire life trying to desperately avoid. You are home. If this reached you, leave a like. I read every comment.